Friendship is not what you were taught. It was never built for comfort, loyalty, or unconditional support. That story exists to keep you manageable, to keep you open, to keep you predictable. Machiavelli understood something most people refuse to confront. Friendship is a structure of power before it is a bond of emotion. And every structure of power either elevates you or quietly prepares your replacement. You have been trained to see friends as equals, as safe ground, as people who will stand beside you when the world turns hostile. That belief feels good. It feels human. It also makes you vulnerable. Because the moment you assume safety, you stop observing, you stop calculating, you stop protecting your position, and nature punishes that mistake without mercy. Look carefully at your closest relationships, not emotionally, strategically. Who benefits more from the connection? Who adapts more? Who listens more? Who reveals more? Friendship is never neutral. One side always adjusts first. One side always gives more emotional access. One side always loses leverage without noticing. If you think that side isn't you, it already is. Machiavelli did not see friendship as evil. He saw it as conditional, temporary, contextual, formed not by virtue, but by alignment of interest. The moment interests diverge, the bond decays, not dramatically, quietly, with smiles, with politeness, with delayed replies and subtle disrespect. Betrayal rarely announces itself. It waits until you are no longer useful or until your weakness becomes inconvenient. This is not cynicism, this is biology. Humans are tribal predators. We form alliances to survive, to climb, to secure resources, status, and protection. Friendship evolved as a cooperative strategy, not a moral contract. When cooperation stops serving survival or advantage, the mind begins to renegotiate loyalty without asking permission from conscience. The brain does this automatically, instinctively, without guilt. That is why people who swear loyalty today can rationalize abandonment tomorrow. That is why your darkest moments are often witnessed by fewer people than your victories. Weakness lowers your value inside the social hierarchy, and hierarchy governs behavior far more than sentiment ever will. You were taught that real friends stay during hardship. Machiavelli knew better. Hardship is a filter, not a test of virtue, but of utility. When you fall, you force others to choose between supporting you or preserving their own momentum. Most will choose momentum, not because they are cruel, but because they are human. Notice how often friendship lasts longest when neither person changes, when no one grows faster, when no one outgrows the shared identity. The moment one ascends, tension enters. The moment one declines, discomfort spreads. Equality is the illusion that keeps the bond calm. Imbalance is what reveals its true nature. This is where most people fail. They demand emotional honesty from friendships that are structurally incapable of providing it. They overshare, they confess fears, they expose ambitions too early, they confuse closeness with safety, and then they wonder why respect erodes, why jokes turn sharp, why support becomes performative instead of real. Machiavelli warned against this blindness, not because he hated connection, but because he understood leverage. Information is leverage, emotional access is leverage, and once given, it cannot be taken back. Friends learn your patterns, your insecurities, your limits. Today they comfort you with that knowledge. Tomorrow, consciously or not, they use it to position themselves above you. This is why power does not announce itself inside friendship. It whispers, it waits, it observes. The most dangerous shifts are invisible until they are complete. One day you realize your words carry less weight. Your presence no longer changes the room. Decisions are made without you. You are still included, but no longer influential. The friendship remains, your position does not. If this unsettles you, good. It means you are listening. Most people would rather preserve the fantasy than confront the structure underneath it. They cling to warmth while bleeding authority. They choose emotional comfort over strategic clarity, and they pay for it slowly, over years, with regret they can't name. Machiavelli would tell you this is only the beginning, that friendship is governed by laws as cold and precise as warfare, that loyalty is rented, not owned, and that the first brutal truth is not about betrayal, but about perception. Because once you see friendship clearly, you can no longer be controlled by it.
Once you accept that friendship is governed by power, the next illusion collapses on its own. The belief that loyalty is permanent, that time invested guarantees allegiance, that shared history creates immunity from rivalry. Machiavelli understood this was one of the most dangerous lies ever sold to intelligent people. Time does not create loyalty, relevance does. The human mind does not honor the past the way it pretends to. It calculates the present and anticipates the future. Every relationship is subconsciously evaluated through one question: does this connection still serve my survival, status, or identity? When the answer weakens, so does loyalty. Not all at once, gradually, through distance, through justification, through silence. You've seen it happen. A friend who once defended you now watches quietly as others undermine you. A friend who once called daily now forgets to respond. Nothing dramatic, nothing overt, just a slow withdrawal of energy. That withdrawal is not random, it is a recalibration of value. Machiavelli warned that people are faithful when it costs them nothing. The moment loyalty demands sacrifice, it becomes optional. The moment supporting you threatens their standing, their alliances shift. And the most unsettling part is this: they will still believe they are good people while doing it. This is how the mind protects itself. It reframes abandonment as maturity, distance as growth, betrayal as self-care. No villain is required, only self-interest. This is why you must stop measuring friendship by words and start measuring it by behavior under pressure. Who stands closer when your name is questioned? Who benefits when you are weakened? Who subtly enjoys your setbacks while pretending concern? These signals are not accidents, they are leaks, and leaks reveal structure. Here is where most people expose themselves completely. They confront, they accuse, they demand clarity, they force emotional conversations in environments ruled by hierarchy. Machiavelli would consider this a fatal error. Confrontation does not restore loyalty, it accelerates separation. It tells the other person you are emotionally invested, reactive, and off balance. It hands them control of the pace. Power does not argue for commitment. Power observes alignment. When you sense loyalty thinning, you do not plead, you do not explain your pain, you do not demand reassurance. You reduce access, you withdraw information, you reassert independence without announcement. Silence is not weakness here. Silence is recalibration. It forces the other party to reassess your value without the comfort of your availability. Halfway through this understanding, pause. If you are still listening, it means you are not afraid of uncomfortable truth. If you intend to sharpen your perception rather than protect comforting lies, then like this video and subscribe, not as a favor, as a declaration of what kind of mind you are building. Now understand something deeper. Friendship often collapses not because of hatred, but because of comparison. Humans are constantly ranking themselves against those closest to them. Friends are mirrors. When that mirror begins to reflect inadequacy, resentment forms. When it reflects superiority, envy sharpens. Equality dissolves faster than affection. This is why success isolates, not because success makes you arrogant, but because it disrupts the silent balance that kept others comfortable. Your progress becomes a threat to their identity, and identity is protected at all costs. Machiavelli knew this instinct well. He advised princes to be cautious with those who knew them before power arrived. Familiarity breeds entitlement. Entitlement breeds disrespect. And disrespect, once normalized, is impossible to reverse without force or distance. The mistake is thinking loyalty will rise with intimacy. In reality, intimacy increases exposure. Exposure increases leverage, and leverage, when held by the wrong person, becomes a weapon disguised as concern. Notice how friends remember your lowest moments far more vividly than your strengths. Notice how jokes about your past linger longer than praise for your growth. That is not nostalgia, that is positioning. It keeps you psychologically contained within an identity they understand and feel safe around. Machiavelli would tell you this: never allow friendship to freeze you in time. Never let shared history become a cage. The moment you feel pressure to remain smaller for the comfort of others, the bond has already turned against you. This does not mean you abandon everyone. It means you stop mistaking proximity for alignment. You stop assuming kindness equals loyalty, and you begin to see withdrawal not as loss, but as information. Because the third truth is darker than the second, and once you hear it, you will never look at friendship the same way again.
Before going further, answer this quietly but honestly. Have you ever outgrown someone you once called a friend? Or felt someone outgrowing you? Comment below. Not to confess, to acknowledge awareness. Those who see the pattern are already separating themselves from the blind. Now listen carefully, because the third brutal truth is the one people resist the hardest. Friends do not betray you when they hate you. They betray you when they no longer fear losing you. Fear is misunderstood. People think fear is cruelty. Machiavelli understood fear as structure, as gravity, as the invisible force that keeps behavior in alignment. When fear disappears completely, respect follows it into the grave, and friendship without respect becomes casual. Casual becomes careless. Careless becomes dangerous. Most people work tirelessly to remove fear from their friendships. They want to be liked, approachable, non-threatening. They advertise loyalty, forgiveness, availability. They make themselves emotionally cheap, and then they are shocked when boundaries are crossed, secrets are mishandled, and influence evaporates. Fear does not mean intimidation. It means consequence. It means uncertainty. It means the other person never feels fully entitled to you. The moment a friend believes you will always be there, always understand, always forgive, they stop regulating their behavior around you. Why wouldn't they? There is no cost. This is why Machiavelli warned against excessive generosity. What is given freely is valued lightly. What is earned is protected fiercely. Friendship follows the same law. Think back. When did someone first disrespect you? It was never sudden. It was a test. A late reply, a dismissive comment, a broken promise explained away with humor. They were checking how much friction existed. When there was none, escalation followed. Not consciously, instinctively. Humans probe boundaries the way predators test fences. Here is the psychological mechanism at work. The brain associates safety with predictability. When you are predictable, you are manageable. When you are manageable, you are ranked lower. Not out of malice, but efficiency. Social hierarchies optimize for minimal resistance. This is why people feel comfortable disrespecting those they know will not push back. Comfort is not affection. Comfort is dominance without effort. Machiavelli would advise you to preserve a degree of distance, even in closeness. Not coldness, not cruelty, ambiguity. The kind that prevents others from assuming total access to your inner world. The kind that keeps them slightly unsure of where they stand. That uncertainty breeds attentiveness. Attentiveness breeds respect. Notice how people treat those they cannot fully read. They are more careful, more polite, more restrained. Mystery is not deception, it is self-defense. The opposite is also true. Total emotional transparency inside friendship often accelerates decay. When everything is revealed, nothing is valued. When every weakness is known, power imbalances become permanent. Your vulnerabilities become reference points, consciously or not. This is why Machiavelli distrusted friendships built on emotional confession alone. He knew that shared weakness does not create strength, it creates mutual exposure, and exposure without structure invites exploitation. Another uncomfortable truth follows. Many friendships survive only because neither party has leverage worth using. The moment leverage appears, status, money, influence, opportunity, the tone shifts. Advice becomes judgment, concern becomes control, support becomes conditional. You must understand this clearly. People do not resent your success because it hurts them. They resent it because it changes the hierarchy. And hierarchy determines who leads, who follows, and who listens. This is why some friends sabotage subtly, not openly, through doubt, through realistic warnings, through discouragement disguised as care. They are not trying to destroy you, they are trying to restore balance, their balance. Machiavelli would tell you not to confront this either. Confrontation forces denial. Denial hardens positions. Instead, you observe patterns over time. Consistency reveals truth more reliably than confession ever will. If someone's support weakens as your strength increases, you have your answer. If someone's interest grows only when you struggle, you have your answer. You do not need to label them enemy or ally. Labels are for amateurs. You simply adjust access. This is the core lesson. Friendship is not maintained by emotion. It is regulated by distance, consequence, and mutual advantage. When you abandon those, you do not become virtuous, you become exposed. And exposure is always punished. The next truth goes even deeper, because it is not about others at all. It is about you.
The fourth brutal truth is the one that strips you of excuses. Your friends are not the primary threat to your power. Your need for them is. Machiavelli understood that dependence is the root of submission, not physical dependence, psychological dependence. The hunger to be seen, affirmed, included, validated. The need to belong makes even intelligent people negotiate against themselves. It makes them tolerate disrespect, overlook warning signs, and rationalize patterns that would be obvious if emotion were removed. The moment you need a friendship more than it needs you, the balance collapses. Most people do not realize when this happens. It disguises itself as loyalty, as kindness, as being the bigger person. In reality, it is fear of isolation, fear of standing alone with one's own authority, fear of losing access to familiar mirrors that confirm identity. The human mind prefers known pain over unknown solitude. This is why people cling to decaying friendships long after respect has died. They would rather endure subtle humiliation than face the silence that follows separation. They call it maturity. They call it history. They call it understanding. Machiavelli would call it weakness wearing moral language. Here is the deeper mechanism. Friendship often becomes an emotional supply chain. You give attention, humor, empathy, availability. In return, you receive validation, familiarity, and a sense of position. When that supply is threatened, anxiety appears, and anxiety destroys judgment. This is when people overextend. They explain too much. They apologize unnecessarily. They reveal insecurity to regain closeness. Each move lowers their perceived value further, because value in social hierarchy is not determined by effort,
It is determined by scarcity. What is abundant is replaceable. Machiavelli advised rulers to make themselves necessary, not needy. The same law applies here. When your absence is felt, you have leverage. When your presence is guaranteed, you have none. This is not cruelty, this is structure. Notice how people treat those who are always available. Calls answered instantly, plans adjusted without resistance, opinions softened to maintain harmony. Over time, that person becomes background noise, useful, familiar, ignored. Contrast this with those whose time is controlled, whose attention is not automatic, whose approval is not freely given. They are treated carefully. Their words carry weight. Their presence shifts behavior. The difference is not personality, it is self-containment. Another illusion must be destroyed here. The idea of cutting emotional dependence makes you cold or isolated. In reality, it makes your relationships cleaner, sharper, more honest. Because you are no longer bargaining for acceptance, you are choosing alignment. Machiavelli did not seek isolation, he sought sovereignty. There is a difference. Isolation is avoidance, sovereignty is self-sufficiency. When you are sovereign, friendships become optional enhancements, not psychological lifelines. This terrifies people because it forces them to confront how much of their identity is outsourced, how many opinions are shaped to maintain belonging, how many ambitions are delayed to avoid outgrowing the group. Friends do not always pull you down intentionally. Often they simply anchor you to who you used to be. And if you resist that anchor, tension follows. Jokes turn sharp, support turns conditional, distance increases. This is not tragedy, this is transition. Most people interpret this transition as loss. Machiavelli would interpret it as purification. There is also a darker layer. Some friendships survive precisely because one person remains dependent. The other enjoys the position, the listener, the advisor, the rescuer. Power hides comfortably inside concern. When the dependent begins to detach, the dynamic destabilizes, control slips, resistance appears. That resistance is revealing. If someone becomes hostile when you assert independence, they never were aligned with your strength, only with your reliance. And reliance is not friendship, it is leverage turned inward. This is why Machiavelli warned against confusing affection with alignment. Affection can coexist with rivalry, envy, and quiet sabotage. Alignment cannot. Alignment requires mutual respect for autonomy. Here is the internal shift you must make. Stop asking whether a friendship feels good. Ask whether it keeps you sharp. Stop measuring how understood you feel. Measure how respected you are when you say no, when you withdraw, when you change. Discomfort is not always danger. Sometimes it is the signal that you are shedding a structure that no longer serves your ascent. The final truth completes this picture. It is not comforting, it is not cruel, it is clarifying. Because once you understand it, friendship stops being a risk. It becomes a tool. The fifth brutal truth is the one Machiavelli reserved for those who could handle it. Friendship is not meant to be equal, it is meant to be ordered. Equality is a story societies tell to prevent revolt. In reality, every human connection arranges itself into hierarchy. Someone leads the pace, someone sets the tone, someone holds the frame. The moment you deny this, you lose the ability to influence it. Machiavelli did not try to escape hierarchy, he mastered it. In friendships, power does not come from dominance or force, it comes from authorship. Who defines what is normal, what is acceptable, what is laughed off, and what is corrected? Whoever controls the frame controls the relationship. Most people surrender the frame without noticing. They adapt, they accommodate, they absorb behavior rather than shaping it. Over time, they become reactors instead of authors. They are included, but not influential. known but not respected. To reverse this, you do not confront, you do not announce change. You shift behavior calmly and consistently. You stop over-explaining. You stop justifying decisions. You stop filling silence. You let others adjust to you instead of the reverse. This is how hierarchy is rewritten without conflict. Machiavelli understood that people respect those who appear internally governed. When your reactions are predictable, you are easy to manage. When your standards are firm but unspoken, people self-regulate around you. They sense consequence without needing to see it. This is the highest level of control. Not fear of punishment, but awareness of boundaries. At this level, friendship becomes selective, not exclusive out of arrogance, but filtered by mutual recognition of strength. Weak bonds demand reassurance. Strong bonds tolerate distance. This is where the inner circle forms, not by invitation, by endurance. Those who remain when you are silent, those who do not test your boundaries, those who grow as you grow without rivalry or resentment. These are rare. They are not found by searching. They are revealed by time and pressure. Machiavelli would tell you something most people never hear. You do not owe anyone access to your inner world. You do not owe loyalty to those who no longer align with your trajectory, and you do not owe explanation for protecting your position. Compassion does not require exposure. Kindness does not require weakness, and solitude is not failure when it is chosen. Once you internalize this, friendship stops being emotional roulette. You stop fearing betrayal because you are no longer over-invested. You stop chasing validation because your standards are internal. You stop confusing presence with alignment. People will feel the shift. Some will drift away. Some will recalibrate. A few will rise to meet you. Let this happen without resistance. Resistance reveals attachment. Attachment erodes authority. Machiavelli's final lesson on friendship is simple but brutal. Never build your power on bonds that require you to stay small. When you stand fully in your own frame, friendships either stabilize or dissolve. Both outcomes serve you. Stability means alignment. Dissolution means clarity. This is not loneliness. This is sovereignty. If these truths sharpen you rather than comforting you, then you already know what to do next. Those who seek dominance over their inner world, clarity over illusion, and control over their social reality do not watch from the outside. They enter the circle. Subscribe.